Hello and welcome to the Face Downs, your source for TCG news and all things Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm Lucas.
I'm Ruben.
And I'm Joe.
And it is late at night. We are panic recording this because we don't want to be caught out by Konami again. We may end up putting this up a little early, just to bypass an early ban list.
So if you're listening to this on a not our usual release day, it's early.
It's early. If you want to wait till Tuesday, you can, but we're not losing this time, baby.
Yeah, we're against the clock, and so we are continuing our tradition of our most original idea that no one's ever done before.
Don't steal this idea.
And so that will be our painful choice format.
The
painful choice. So this is a format where each of myself, Lucas, and Joe, we take 5 cards that are problematic or no longer problematic, that are either on or off the Forbidden and Limited list in Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG, and make our own personal alterations and cases as to why these changes should occur. At the end of each of us reading our decisions, we'll each pick the one choice that we think is the most likely to be applied into the TCG, or the one that we most agree with the best reasoning. And then additionally, we also have our Snatch Steal. So this is one card that is banned or limited that we would like to see move a tier down and potentially see its implications could be in the format upcoming, just as a kind of an experimental unban or unlimit.
Plot twist, it's going to be 3 IO.
Yeah.
That's the
3 Imperial
I'm bringing
order.
it back, baby.
Yuck.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a really interesting time right now for ban lists because, as we've seen results-wise, and I'm sure you two will agree, this format is really diverse.
Yeah, I got to agree.
There is no tier 1 deck. There's nothing that's super oppressive in, like, as a deck as a whole. It seems to be more singularity pieces that potentially are causing problems. And that's kind of what we're here to talk about. I guess, what are your guys' thoughts on potentially some of the best decks that might get hit before we move forward, like as kind of a precursor? Like, what do you think's a deck currently that should maybe get a little bit of a check going forward?
Tri-Brigade.
Yeah, I think Tri-Brigade, maybe a little preemptive hit to Phantom Knight. I feel like the decks that are like not on the chopping block as such, but the ones that are going to be touched are the ones that kind of were around at the start of last year. And
plot twist, Phantom Knight has not topped anything.
Yeah,
the deck is not tier 1. They're not going to ban anything. I really don't think they will.
I don't think they will either.
Looks scary.
Adventure token,
but that's OCG, and this is TCG. We are not going to see the same representation. I don't think Phantom Knight is ban worthy right now. I mean, point to the latest top that Phantom Knight has gotten.
I mean, yeah, I agree. But I feel like not so much as a hit to what it is at the moment. It's more just maybe they look at the OCG and go, Adventurer token could be a problem here. I'm not saying it will. Maybe. I'm just saying
maybe.
You know, they might do it.
I'll admit that Cherubini is the problem card in the OCG, and Phantom Knight is the card. You know, it's the deck that makes Cherubini. Is that going to push it beyond what the other unfair decks of this format are doing?
Well, and let's find out. Let's see some reasonings, and let's get to some painful choices. So we'll each take turns going through our selection. So there'll be 15 choices total from each of us. I guess, Joe, this is your second painful choice. So why don't you hit us with your first option?
Number 1.
My first one is a little bit boring, but we're going to go there. Salomon Great Circle to 2.
Whoa.
Oh!
I didn't think about Salad, but...
I like that. Okay, let us know.
Yeah, reasoning is obviously Salad isn't doing much right now. I don't know if it's a card that can be back at pre, because it might just propel that consistency way too far, and could see Salad back at the top, but they may have been power crept by now. So I feel like it's one of those things where they could put it to 2, put it in the waiting room, see how it goes. If it still doesn't do anything, chuck it to 3 in the following list. It's going to be one of those cards, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, Deco Talker Heat Soul comes out in April, and that's a really nice fire cyburst that deck can use to at least draw a card and climb up. So I like that. That's a nice start.
That really accelerates the consistency of that Nibiru token hitting the board. Like,
it does.
That's huge for Salamangreat. They've been looking for a lot of... Because sometimes they don't summon enough times.
Yeah.
This will really accelerate their ability to consistently be Nibiru.
I mean, alternatively, also, like, the effect to make a reincarnation monster unaffected is also really powerful, and I think probably the most underutilized ability on that card.
Yeah, because you can't really use it twice. You have to use its search more times than you use its protection.
Yeah, and it's usually like a reset of something like a Sunlight Wolf add back if needed. I like that. That's a really interesting choice. And we don't have to like question every decision, but why Circle over Gazelle?
Gazelle, I don't know. There's something about the fact that like if you just open a Gazelle every turn, that's what make that deck like so strong in the first place. Like it's the fact that if you wipe the salad on board at the time, if they had the Gazelle in hand, it was follow up. I guess what this does is it changes it so you have a slightly more consistent going first, but you don't have the like, I guess the sack of like having the Gazelle in your hand all the time again. Like, because that was what the problem with the deck was at the time, I believe. I don't think the Circle was ever really the problem. It was kind of the Gazelle that just always gave you that like pre-summon after they destroyed something.
Yeah, Salad got the world's hit. You know, they got so much stuff hit at once because they won worlds. They didn't probably have to hit Circle as quickly as they did.
Yeah, I agree.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that.
That's such a cool one.
That's a very waiting room.
I feel like it's a diplomatic, painful choice.
Because it can go to 3 after that, right?
Yeah, I like it.
I
like
so.
that a lot. And it was hit second because obviously Gazelle was put to 1 before Circle was. So realistically, if they want to start reversing, Circle would be more likely to leave the limited list as opposed to Gazelle. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a nice first
great
one.
Start.
Lucas, what's your first painful choice?
All right, you ready for a real hot original take?
Here we go, Dal.
Oh no.
I think they're probably going to ban Verte.
Okay.
Yeah.
And reasoning, let us know.
So the reasoning is it's an indirect hit if they are afraid of Phantom Knights. I don't think they are, but it is. Limiting their capability to access some kind of boss monster from the extra deck. And of course, everyone's immediate rebuttal is you can just play 3 Fusion Destiny, a Celestial, and a Dasher. And I'd say to those people, plot twist, Konami wants you to play 3 Fusion Destiny, a Celestial, and a Dasher. They just printed DPE. And the likelihood of them hitting like the actual resource cards, it really reminds me of when Halka Fibrax was like the talk of the town. And everyone said they're not going to hit Hulk. And everyone's like, no, they are going to hit Hulk. They're going to leave Olion Jet Synchron alone. And lo and behold, they hit all of the other stuff that made Hulk a problem so that they could maintain a card that was recently printed in the format. DPE is a perfectly fine card in Destiny Hero. It's extremely summonable and it's very powerful. And if decks are forced to run the committed plan of activating a Fusion Destiny, they have to draw it, which of course they can, but also it commits 2 bricks and 3 starters to the deck for that combo in quotation marks. So there's a higher statistical likelihood that they'll draw, for example, a Celestial and then have nothing to do with it. Whereas when Verte is legal, yeah, you neg when you activate it, but you get the DPE. And I think that's a huge hit overall. And it also just feels like a real TCG hit.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really, like, we've kind of discussed this in person, Lucas and I, but the existence of Verte Anaconda means your hand can just be 5 go cards and you get what you want anyway. Whereas at the inclusion of something like a Fusion Destiny or, back in the beginning of the year, Dragoon, it was like you had to, if your hand was Red Eyes Fusion and 4 other cards, that was your hand was turned off, or if your hand was 4 other cards and a Dragoon piece, you had 4 cards and a Garnet. Yeah. And I think that's where Verte is so powerful, is it just turns a hand of 5 engine interruption hand traps into your full board with the piece of interruption, as opposed to, like you said, having to draw the fusion spell.
Yeah, I mean, it turns a hand of... It turns a really good hand plus Fusion Destiny into more likely a decent hand that could maybe Fusion Destiny as a backup more often. And also, it turns away a lot of decks that are currently playing through Nibiru by just going, make a monster, Verte, DPE, ha. That's no longer possible as well. So the backup plan nature of Verte goes away, and you cannot overstate how often that decks like Skystrike, Adamancipator, Phantom Knights rely on that backup plan. They build greedy because they can always reliably get some kind of guy on the field.
I mean, that's so true. Like, we literally see extra decks. It's just like, okay, Link Spider, another Link monster, Verte. That's fine.
I think it can go.
the problem I have with Verte, and I've had this problem with it since Dragoon was even like the main one everyone used, is it just like promotes decks to like go off their like normal path, I suppose, and just go into the Dragoon or go into the DPE. It like very much like limits what deck building is, I suppose, in a way, where you can just be like, well, I'm gonna put the Verte in here just because I can make it almost, like it's not really much of a choice. It's like can my deck summon two things and make a Verte? Yes. May as well play Verte. Like,
and the answer is always going to be yes.
Which is kind of a shame because like I like the way it plays in Shadow. It's kind of a little bit more fair in a fusion based deck, but like
agreed,
absolutely,
it's not fair in like a link based deck, and that's where its problem is.
Or it's just not fair in a deck that literally doesn't care about anything to do with fusion summoning until you want to put a Dragoon or destroy a Phoenix Enforcer out.
Exactly.
My other cursory hatred of Verte is that it's very resource hungry. Like the Verte Dagda board it's almost incapable of being anything but that, even in the most link spammy decks, because you need two discrete instances of making a link 2, and it lends itself to, like you said, the best thing you can be doing is Verte plus Dagda. And personally, I find that like to be a really, really boring outcome for a combo deck. I mean, I was testing Adamanticators with DPE in my own time, and yeah, the number of times my end board was like, I'll end on like Hulk Verte plus Raptite. Like, my deck could do a bunch of cool things, but this is better than what I would have made, so might as well. It can go. It can go.
Yeah, okay, so we've got Circle to 2 and Verte ban. Okay, so my first painful choice, I would so my first choice could be a bit controversial. I would ban Cherubini, Ebon Angel of the Burning Abyss. My reasoning for this is it's nothing that directly hits anything that's been printed within the last year. Cherubini itself has the most recent printing of a Megaton 2020. So we're already a year past its most recent printing. Its utility in Phantom Knights is probably one of the most ridiculous things it can be. Obviously, a card that's super it's difficult to interact with. Obviously, it's being unashable. And its protection substitution by sending cards on the field in the cases of Gamma. It protecting cards it points to from destruction via card effects is really powerful. And I think going forward, the introduction of the Adventurer token archetype will promote more of a put 2/3s on the board as fast as possible strategy, just to kind of secure your deck or your board presence with the Wandering Griffin Rider Omni Negate. I think banning Cherubini doesn't immediately touch decks like Pure Burning Abyss or Phantom Knight. They have a multitude of link monsters that they can get access and get to. It just hinders their external resource gain, which is honestly something that I don't think is too bad. I think Phantom Knights have had a long time in the sun, and especially the introduction of things like Utopic Draco Future. We saw the Levier loops were super popular. They still end on the Dragoon or the Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer with things like Artifact Dagda. I think Cherubini is potentially a link monster that can just go and force a bit more utility and something that's a bit more deck building as opposed to relying on an extra deck monster to extend / find your Omni Negate.
This is like the Isolde argument. It's like the exact same argument.
Yes.
Make Cherubini as full combo, make Isolde as full combo, but Cherubini has less Garnet restrictions, I guess. Isolde, requiring you to play equip spells is actually a cost.
Yes.
I can see it. I thought Cherubini was a problem ever since I first ashed it. And then someone told me I couldn't. It's stupid.
Yeah. That's also another argument with Verte as well. The fact you can't ash it.
Yeah. The only argument against Cherubini is that it's not currently showing up in topping deck lists. And that's tough for me I can't imagine the reaction being positive in that people would just point to like, where's the tops in the TCG?
Yeah, and I think for me, it's not so much like it's overperforming now. I think it's more of a precursor hit to it does just facilitate any deck as long as you can vomit 2 level 3s onto the board to just find your Omni Negate in the Wandering Griffin Rider that you can get off the Alt Command so that you can send.
Because we don't get many preemptive hits. You could argue Colossus was a preemptive hit for Nemesis Corridor, but Colossus was also part of the toss banning. So we don't have a lot of precedent for like cards. Normally they let us play with it for a format.
For a little bit, yeah.
Block Dragon wasn't pre-banned for Adamantipator. It was in fact printed in Secret Slayers. And then they let us have it for like a little bit, and then we're like, just kidding. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. I think my reasoning for it is, again, it's not something that's been printed recently, so it's not something they're making money off of anymore. It doesn't directly affect a Phantom Knight strategy.
I think it does. I think it probably kills the deck, right?
I don't think it kills the deck.
Well, how do they extend without Cherubini?
Have you seen the deck? It's just level 3 extenders.
Yeah, but I mean, normally the Cherubini gets you the Phantom Knight in rotation that protects you from hand traps.
And that's the thing. That's the problem.
Like, if you get rid of Cherubini, that deck loses to Nib hard. It loses to Imperm real hard. Like, it has no play through any hand trap, I don't think.
Well, that's the substitution I'm providing, is that you're getting the Adventurer tokens, so you lose the Cherubini. That's my first decision. That's my first choice.
That's fair.
Joe, number 2.
Number 2, I have Nadir Servant to 1.
Ooh.
I think
another card that has not been topping a lot. Let me hear it.
Let's hear it, Dom.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like this card is still just so strong. Even though, yes, we haven't seen many tops, it's because it hasn't had the deck to kind of propel it. But I don't know. I'm so sick of seeing Invoke Dogmatica that I just want this card to go in a way. I know it's a really bad like reasoning for it, but like in America, it seems to be really popular as well. Like the Nadir Servant seems to be the deck in America right now, like the Invoke deck. Just the card that
the YCS, it did top. I think Invoked DPE got top 4, and that was running Nadir Servant.
And I think the problem is it's not so much what the card does. It's the fact that Schism is a card with it, and if Schism, it's either one or the other. It's either Schism ban or like Nadir 7-1, because like a 1 card Schism is just so strong. Like you don't do anything. You get a card to your hand and you get a Schism. Like it's just so like, I don't know, toxic, I suppose. And that's the way I view it. It's too consistent, and I feel like it can just go to 1 and like be a power card that you can draw sometimes rather than all the time.
Yeah, Nadir 7's super interesting. It's obviously unsearchable. It is just purely a card that you would have to open. I personally don't think it's too problematic at this moment in time. I do believe that it is powerful. I will not deny that. And I think that the resource generation off that card is so powerful for something they printed in 2019,
I think, yeah.
19.
The Duelist, yeah.
Which is, Rise of the Duelist.
Rise of the Duelist, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's tough. I feel like, if it pops up more, if it's popping up more and more in the TCG, especially in the US, which is a large player base, I can see that happening.
I think my issue with limiting this card in the TCG is that the amount of times I've played against a deck that is jamming these 3 archetypes, and if they lead with Nadir Servant, I lean back and I'm like, oh, I've won the game. Like, there's nothing. The way I build decks, and maybe this is just a testament to how I build decks, but I'm not losing to Schism Pass with a Fleur de Lis in hand. It's just not going to happen. It needs to be backed up by
the Invoked or
something else. Invoked plus Schism, I might lose to that. If they throw down a DP first and then Nadir Servant, I might lose to that. But I don't think Nadir Servant on its own being unsearchable, there's no Verte for Nadir Servant. There's no way to like consistently get it plus something else. Otherwise, we'd be seeing it show up in combo decks, right? Because it's for the rest of the turn. Why wouldn't Phantom Knights just be playing Nadir Servant, dump, make Schism, get a Winder as well? And the reason is that there are probably better things you can be doing with the cards in your hand, is maybe my reasoning.
I think
I have an Invoked hit too, so I can't say this deck is not.
Yeah, I think the thing is that we also have the Albaz deck coming out, and it could see a lot of play in those sorts of things. We saw in Dino's, I think, example build, he had triple Nadir Servant too. Yeah, it's a very strong card. I think like it may not be this list. It will see time at some point when it gets more abused, I suppose.
It has consistently topped for like 2 years, so I'm not going to take it away from the power of this card.
Yeah. Okay, super interesting. All right, Lucas, number 2.
My number 2 is, in my opinion, the most format-defining hit, and it would be to put Tri-Brigade Fractal to 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a couple reasons for it. I think it's the Tri-Brigade hit, personally. I think Tenki was a bit of a dud, and the reason I think that is I think they should have done this in reverse, because Fractal being a 1-card Tri-Brigade combo is extraordinarily powerful. But as a non-repeatable asset, it's not extremely powerful. Like, I don't think it's the biggest problem card. If you can only Fractal once, Tri-Brigade are just insta-dead to a Ruddy Rose Dragon. You can actually meaningfully interact with their graveyard. I mean, how many times have you looked in a Tri-Brigade's graveyard and gone, oh, you've only got 2, and then they just fractal their graveyard full again, and oh, now they've got 6, or now they've got 5, and now they can kill me. I think if this card is at 1, it is still necessary for them to start with, and then you know it's gone. It means the deck has way less grind, and also will realistically just hard open Fractal less, which means they have to lean heavier into the new support like Lurilisk, or playing supplemental engines like Ancient Warriors, like Crystal Beasts, with the new Zenith Crystal Beast support. Just think it would be cool. And this card is, I think, ban-worthy. I think it's extraordinarily powerful. It's essentially a painful choice. Like, let's be real. I mean, it's specific, but the fact that it can foolish any level 3 or lower Wing Beast, or Beast Warrior as well just opens it up for abuse in future. And it's a powerful one-off. I think it's a reasonable card. And even if we had 3 Tenki, I think having 1 Fractal would have been a more impactful hit to the engine.
Yeah, I mean, I've discussed this previously. I think Tenki will return. I think Tenki is going to do what, spoiler alert, Italia is going to do, is that once it, there becomes another time where they want to push this particular typing, or it's no longer a problematic issue in the metagame, it starts coming off the list. And that's absolutely the truth. Like, there's, at this moment in time, Tenki is really powerful. And I think if Fractal was to go, Tenki loses a lot of strength.
I don't even think Tenki's that strong this format. Like, if it was at 3, there's 1 good search target.
Yeah, but the zoos are essentially gone.
Zoos have been massively neutered, so I don't know what anyone's searching except for Fractal, unless you were playing a supplementary Ancient Warriors engine, which I think would be honestly cooler. And I would prefer to see as the deck goes forward, because it's a slightly more casual, tier 2 deck. That's still top to YCS. So 3 Fractals kind of nuts.
1 Fractal's fine. And like, to be honest, it wouldn't hinder the Lurilisk build all that much. Like, it will hurt it a tiny bit, but like it won't do all that much. So I think that's a fine hit. Yeah.
Oh, and also, like, it incentivizes a pure build, which is probably what they want. Like, if you see 1 Fractal, you're like, that's not really worth the space.
Well, you can imagine a pure Lurilisk build, 1 Fractal, 1 Kit, 3 Nerval. Like, that's a clean, and like 1 Caress. That feels like a clean engine you might run now. Like, 3 Fractal might be bricky if you want to play pure. But the 1 as your 10th copy of Cobalt Sparrow, that's not bad.
No, that's not bad at all. Okay, so my second hit... this is probably, again, similar to what we're seeing with the previous list, as opposed to, as like the indirect hits to decks. I would be putting the Arc Nemesis Protoss as a ban. While I do think that this is a very powerful card, this card wasn't reprinted for a reason. There's definitely got to be some justification as to why this card was excluded from the Megatins. Whether that's to be reprinted in a future product, I'm not immediately sure. However, I think that the power of saying no to a typing is very strong, a la True King of All Calamities. I think that Protoss is not as strong as True King of All Calamities. I think True King still remains one of the most powerful kind of activate and resolve floodgates that will win you a game easily. However, its synergistic ability with not only the Sword Soul strategy, also a Tinyi strategy, and then also the Sword Soul Blackout trap, I think that is far too powerful. And I think it doesn't immediately kill the Sword Soul strategy. It just brings it to a level that's a bit more fair, and not as overpowered.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I agree.
I think at the Wellington Regional, I won quite a few games with Protoss. Like, every time I knew the opponent was on darks, my aim was just get to Protoss, declare dark, win the game. Like it kind of took away from me actually playing my deck. It stopped me
better
from
than what you
thinking.
can do.
Yeah, and I was just like, why would I go into this combo when I could just search a Protoss and then summon Protoss and activate, declare dark, win the game? Like
I was playing heroes at my last hobby, and in testing, I was playing against Ruben Sword Soul. He was just turboing Chow Feng Protoss, not even bothering to do Sword Soul combos because he knew my deck was maining droplets, chalice, etc. And I go to hobby, I play against Sword Soul. They make the Baron Chijiao board with blackout, and I was breaking it every time. And afterwards, I was like, what you want to do is you want to make Protoss, call dark, and I lose the game. I cannot beat it unless I draw, an
impermanence at
to
that
deal
time.
with it. I think I disagree that this is not as strong as VFD. I think it's as strong because on the field, it effectively does the same thing that VFD did, which is that it fades interaction. You can't droplet this card. You can't Dark Ruler this card. You can't Chalice this card. Once it's activated, it is done. Unlike cards like Chow Feng, which when you negate it, actually become negated. Similar to how VFD would dodge pretty much all of these forms of interaction, except you could Gamma a VFD, you could Droplet a VFD, and actually realistically still play out your turn. This is much more of a, you didn't have it, boo-hoo card, Oh, you didn't have the Imperm? Oh, well.
Yeah.
Guess you lose.
I think personally where I would disagree with that sentiment is that VFD is reactive. You can go blind with a VFD and shut
That's
off
true.
an opponent's turn, whereas Protoss is a proactive card. You have to know your opponent, or it is stronger in games 2 and 3 when you're aware of your opponent's strategy.
I mean, I think in a tournament, the idea that you won't know what your opponent's deck is, most pro players are not playing under those margins. They usually know by scouting or even like some cute questions before a match.
The meta game, also what you're expecting to see.
So, and I think the reason that VFD was better than this card and why that has been banned so much sooner is that it was an extra deck monster. I'm not going to argue that this is stronger because this is a main deck monster. You can't just splash this in any deck that makes 2 level 9s. But now that we have a searcher for worms, 2 if you include circle, this is way too consistent. I think it should be banned. And I think it limits the potential of worm decks if the best thing they can do for a second time running is make a VFD just with a different name.
Yeah.
And as a Sword Soul player, I would be not like happy with it going because obviously it's a powerful card, but like I would be content because like my deck that I've spent lots of money on hasn't been destroyed. I actually get to use the Sword Soul cards more, and it's just a Protoss. Like I can play with that.
The Sword Soul cards are balanced.
Yeah,
I really do think they have counterplay, and the problem is this card counterplays the counterplay.
Yeah.
I have never lost to Sword Soul on a turn that I drew Droplet. It's impossible unless they make Protoss, and then you go, well, this Droplet did nothing. It's horrible.
Okay, Joe, number 3.
We'll stay on the theme of oppressive cards. We will go with Imperial Order banned. And
right, well, here we go again.
Spoiler alert for everyone who sent in a painful choice.
Yeah, so this one here is literally just to appease the people. Like everyone I speak to just wants Imperial Order gone, and it's because I know that like, there are reasons for it to like stay, but I don't know. I feel like a card that you can just flip up and win a game shouldn't exist for the same reason with Protoss. Yeah.
I also think it promotes lazy deck building. Like jamming 39 good cards and IO has been a thing for a year.
Yeah. I believe it was Triv on Twitter that was saying it's like flipping IO isn't a deck.
He said building a combo deck, main decking IO is trash and makes you a trash duelist. And I don't think he's saying that like emotionally. I think it's also like it's relying too much on variance. It's relying too much on my out to X is drawing IO instead of having a game plan.
Yeah.
And, you can give Triff some crap for like being overhyped, but the man knows how to have a game plan. He played Pendulum way past it being good and still did well.
Yeah. I mean, I will just mirror the exact same thing I said last time. I am adamant in the belief that Konami will not ban a card they've errated.
We'll yet to see.
I don't know. I think this time surely. Like they had a bit of a I wouldn't say outroar, but like people weren't happy last Banlist when this didn't go. And it was voiced quite a bit around the YouTubers and stuff. So I don't know. I feel like it could be its time now. Like they're going, okay, let's go.
Yeah, I will say it's probably a bit more likely, seeing as the last European remote device, was determined by the opponent flipping Imperial Order.
And both players were on it.
Yeah.
Both players were playing IO. Like, it wasn't even that one of them flipped it. They both tried to. This is the first one to draw, it wins. It's stupid.
Yeah. It's kind of that kind of a card where it does thing. I mean, I will be strong in my opinion and say that Konami will not ban a card they have errated.
Now, I don't think in the same camp, this isn't on my list, but anti-spell deserves a ban, because I do think spell cards need really powerful hate. I think they need a card that balances them, because spell cards
checks, absolutely.
Are by far the strongest cards in the format. We can't, I mean, look at all the cards we've talked about. Tenki, Nadir Servant, Fusion Destiny. These are all incredibly powerful cards with almost no counterplay. And there need to be cards that exist to counterplay decks that would just be 39 spell cards.
We discussed this before as well, with the difference between IO and anti-spell, is the fact that you need to like preemptively flip up your anti-spell to like be super effective.
Yep.
And
it doesn't
for that
trade 1-for-1.
Yeah, and for that reason alone, it's more balanced, because Imperial Order, you can literally just wait for them to like use their spell trap removal, and then you just flip it up and you're like, see you later.
You're like, where's the next one? Otherwise, you're not getting rid of this card.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a pretty consistent 3. Lucas, number 3.
Yeah. Speaking of cards that you flip up in response and trade 1-for-1 followed by a floodgate effect, I would like them to ban Harpy's Featherstorm. I personally think that card should go from 3 to 0. I think now that a deck has emerged that can easily run it as part of its game plan, and we've even seen Harpy Conductor teched in top deck lists to activate it from hand, so it can also be used going first as a pseudo Azathoth. I think this card is similar to IO, low skill, doesn't include any kind of counterplay. I believe the only card that can beat it would be Red Reboot, which is at 1. This card, paired with anything, wins you the game. Paired with nothing, can also buy you a turn on its own, and while I don't think it's the strongest card in Bird Up, I don't think it's like the ban target, because it's at most a side deck card. It is, in my opinion, promoting really, really bad games, and I also hate drawing it. Every time I've drawn this card, I draw like no combo, and maybe that's partly this card is cursed, but it is extremely powerful. I do believe like Simorgh, Bird of Sovereignty plus Harpy's Featherstorm is enough.
I believe that would win the game.
I don't think that's interesting. I think that's super lame.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. Yeah, Joe?
Yeah, quite clearly. Like, I remember we tested a little bit going in before my regional, and every game that I lost was a game where you just like flip up the Harpy's Featherstorm, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, done. You know, that it was kind of, that was it. Like, I couldn't respond. You can't do anything. And you just sit there going, okay, well, I can't play the game. Your turn. You know, and any card like that, it's just not healthy.
The time walk kind of effects, where it's just completely fades an entire turn's worth of actions.
Yeah, like imagine you like evenly droplet, like we saw in our Battle of the Islands, and then before that resolves, you just go Featherstorm. It doesn't even matter that you wiped the entire field. You pass. There's nothing you can do.
No.
And the people I do feel sorry for if this happens is the resident Harpy player and people that play Harpies themselves, like, because they lose their win condition. But it has become a problem in other decks.
It's a sack win con. It's not a fun win con.
I think if Harpy's Featherstorm was just worded to say a Harpy, like Harpy monster, I feel like that's a better condition.
Yes.
Whereas, because Winged Beast is, at this moment in time, generic. Far too accessible. We not only Bird Up, Fluwanderies are more than capable of playing something like this.
Yeah, they can also play it.
Pure Lyrilisk, obviously, is something that can utilize this tool. So I think it's fair. Where I might see it not getting hit is purely because of its niche and its inaccessibility to other decks. However, we already saw decks like Sword Soul were taking in things like Cyber/Harpy Lady with some Featherstorm, just because it's that powerful of a one-turn floodgate.
I just think as long as Tri Brigade is a deck, this card will see play. And I think Tri-Brigade is going to continue to be a deck for a while.
Mm.
And I would prefer to not lose to this card. I'd prefer to lose to the deck. Even, the full bird up board can be theoretically broken. It's extremely good and plays around almost every board breaker in the format. As it stands, the only outs to that board are Sphere Mode, Red Reboot plus a board breaker plus something to protect it, or Mystic Mine. Like, it's that's it, right? Like, you just got to Mystic Mine them and hope for the best, which is not
I would
fun.
never say that. I would never say hope for the best. Okay, super interesting. Okay, so for me, my number 3, I think going forward, seeing a lot of these decks that are coming out with a lot of ability to search and a lot of things that are quite popular. My number 3rd decision is to put Thunder Dragon Colossus to 1.
Let's go.
I think that, I believe this was like a snatch deal, a couple of lists for me, honestly, but I think I'm no longer in the camp of like, ooh, it's something spicy. I just simply believe that Colossus's ability as a quote unquote mistake, not it being a mistake, the card mistake, is powerful enough, but not broken. I think, not to mention the splash ability of Thunder is slowly seeing something. And I think that that's fun. I think that that's unique.
Yep.
We've seen Branded Thunder start doing things in Japan. And I think that this is a deck that could absolutely utilize that. And I think that the amount of board breakers, pieces of interruption, main deck interruption that decks are on, it's yes, okay, you can cry the same case like Protoss, have it or lose, lol. But I think that the amount of interruption that is in the format since Colossus left is no longer a concern for Colossus's existence.
It's a tough one because Colossus does invalidate some decks. And I'm not saying that as an argument for it not to be brought back. It does, you say like have it or don't lol is fair. Because some decks don't play any special from deck or kind of...
It's only search. You cannot...
What I'm saying is if you want to out Colossus, you got to be able to make Zeus, or you got to be able to special from deck to get to something that can out Colossus. If your deck is a functionally high quality deck that is designed to play around interaction, but just can't beat specifically mistake, it becomes a little tougher because then it just seems like those decks are kicked out of the format. But I don't think it's that oppressive because you can side for it. You have bad matchups, you can side for them, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that Colossus existed before droplets. It existed before like everyone was main in board breakers or like cards like droplets. I mean, if you look at most people's lists in like top 32s at the moment, you're seeing like triple droplet, triple imperm. Like you're seeing Chalice as well.
Yeah.
But in Chalice,
The other thing
it's always been Colossus plus something. You know?
And that's the issue.
thing.
Like the thing that I was thinking about when you guys were talking there was like in my own deck, Sword Soul, like it's not even draw droplets because I can just make a Baxia and like shuffle it. So like it's not. Yeah. It's good if it's backed up with something. I don't. It's one of those ones we almost need to see it at 1 to see what it actually does, and then if it's a mistake, they can chuck it back on the list. Like I guess
I agree, and I think I'd like to see that just as like a general conversation. I just like to see that more with the ban list. Like I just like them to see try to put to 1, can't do that. Literally the snatch steal. Let's put it to 1. Nope, can't do that. Like, I feel like we just need a bit more exploration and experimentation with this list. And, you bringing up things like Baxia to shuffle back. There are tools that are so much more modern than that now. Zeus to send. There's so many ways that are no longer destruction-based removal that bypass Colossus's built-in protection.
I even just thought, like, Striker have an out now. They didn't have Zeke back when this was, like, an oppressive anti-Striker card. But now you can just banish it. Done.
Yeah.
Probably the existence of Dragoon has made this card fine to come back because people have just built their deck with Dragoon and other kinds of cards in mind, things that can't be destroyed, and just we've abandoned the idea of destruction being a valid form of removal. I mean, currently we have a Colossus in the format. It's called Chen Ying. It does the same thing. You need to protect it and get rid of it the same way.
And people do. So, yeah.
Okay, Joe, number 4.
Alright, number 4. This is one that's a bit different. I've got Sekka's Light back to 3.
Okay.
Love it. I love this card.
Let us know.
So the reason is like spells and stuff and like other things are super strong right now. And having a card that, like, yeah, sure, it's a pot greed, but you're not allowed to run any other spells really in your deck. So, like, you can't run droplets, you can't run the power spells, you can't run the. I feel like it promotes cool deck building, and I want to see it back. Like, I don't feel like it was ever really a limitable card. Like, yeah, sure, at the time, Danger was the deck that abused it the most, but I was looking at the list the other day and I was like, why is that card still there? Like, it doesn't do enough.
Yeah, Sekka's Light, more and more I'm warming up to it. I think previously there was a lot of times where I mean, there's no way this card can come back. The card just does flat out say, draw 2, and you can keep doing it if you run multiples of it. But I think the existence of some of the most powerful spells and traps in terms of board breaking and pieces of interruption that have existed in the game kind of disincentivize the need for that. Also, things like, Sekka's Light decks, they predominantly rolled around things like Block Dragon, Glow Up Bulb, Destrudo. There was a lot of monsters, like you said, dangers, that were freer extenders and pieces of things to get to, the crazy boards of like Sayuja, Pachycephalo. But like, those tools are gone, like, or severely restricted. Yeah. So I think it's unique deck building more than oppressive advantage generation.
Easiest take of my life. This comes back to 3 next list. Not a single tier 1 deck will play this card. Not even close.
Yeah, exactly.
And you might think, oh, Phantom Knight will play this. Yeah, and then they'll just never be able to play E-Telly. They won't be able to play Fusion Destiny. Like, why would they cut those cards for a Pot of Greed? They can't even use their effect in Grave to reborn. How often have you seen a Phantom Knight player use that effect to recover from a massive blowout? Yeah. The only deck that would play this card, in my opinion, is Adamancipator.
Yes.
They cut Signs, you cut Fusion Destiny if you're playing that. And even then, I don't think this card fixes the deck, because drawing cards in that deck without a Block Dragon, it's not that good. It's not that good. That card's whole reason for being played in Adamancipator during its peak was just like, I'll draw into Block Dragon, lol. Now you're just drawing to more copies of Researcher you can't use. Terrible. Yeah. This card, average. Very average.
Yeah, I like it. Interesting. I like that a lot.
Come back to 3 right now.
Yeah. Okay. Lucas, number 4.
So my 4th pick is, I want to put Magical Meltdown to 1. And I think Invoked has been the topic of every list. I know. Everyone's bored of talking about how Invoked should get a limit. I think this year is no different. Invoked has still been topping. Meltdown is still by far the problem card. And given that we are getting a generic kind of fusion archetype that not only has its own Meltdown that isn't being played, could very realistically not play the Despia field spell and just play Meltdown to get a valid protection effect that goes +1. And if you draw Branded Fusion, provides you with a decent normal summon that only makes fusion monsters. So no downside. I think realistically, this is the card to hit, whether it goes to 1 or banned. I think 1 is fine because you don't really want to nuke Invoked because it is a cool little engine. We like it.
It's taken years for it to become affordable.
Yeah, we like it. We've played it. I think people should have a chance to splash it into their deck the same way you can splash Gearsu's Scrap Engines or, I don't know, Inspector Border. Like, just these kind of normal summon plus things seem boring, but they get more interesting when you include them in decks that don't traditionally play things like this. Like, historically, Windwitch Invoked is a cool deck. I think the Drytron Invoked deck that existed for a week before we got good cards was kind of neat. I think the Lyrilisk Invoked deck is kind of cool. That just makes Raijin.
I liked Invoked Eldritch. That was super interesting.
I think there's avenues for this, but Meltdown being this like easy 3 of include, and you can just like play. I think they were playing like 1 Invocation, 2 Alistair at the YCS, but you play 3 Meltdown because it's just cracked. This card is insane.
I think I would agree. I think it may be time for Invoked to go. Where I think Invoked are potentially going to dodge the list is I think it's a really incredible introductory style. It teaches you the importance of your resource generation, advantage, and recursion with a really nice payoff. It's not broken. It's not a broken payoff by any means. Mechaba is not a broken card. But I think that for an introductory player, someone who maybe doesn't understand the game too well, this now, I think previously I wouldn't be having the same sentiment, is a really affordable way to teach someone the importance of really simple game mechanics. And I think yeah, one meltdown doesn't change that. And I think
No.
it still teaches the importance of maintaining card advantage, effects gained off of particular cards. And I think that's a really cool tool and something that we just haven't seen repeated.
Yeah, if anything, it incentivizes more careful playing because you don't have the 6 copies of Alistair in your deck. You have to be more conditional about, do I start with Alistair and bait the hand traps, then I don't get my invocation because I don't have a follow-up. It's more likely your opponent, if they play Invoked, won't just hard open all pieces of Invoked plus Engine. And again, like drawing 2 copies of Alistair is kind of bad, but drawing Alistair plus Meltdown is cracked.
Yes.
So again, it limits the potential for your opponent to just FTK you with a perfect hand.
I've multiple times lately like gone through my cards, like building random decks and stuff. And I played Invoked when I came back for about 5 or 6 months. And normal summoning Alistair made me so damn bored of that engine that I want it to go so I don't have the option to ever play it again. And
That's true.
I also got
it's
that
just
sentiment.
I like look at the cards and I'm like, I don't want to play that. It's good, but like I just really don't want to activate Meltdown, search my Alistair, and get the invocation because then I don't know. There's almost a stigma around it now where you summon an Alistair and the opponent just looks at you and goes, Alistair. And you're like, yeah, sorry.
Sorry,
But, you know. But yeah, I'm just very bored of it. I think lots of people are very bored of it now. And I'm someone that played it for a while. So like, yeah, I'm
As
happy.
did I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The broke Alistair versus the woke Aluber will be the next
exactly.
year. And I can foresee that also being a potential move from Konami just to like pivot you towards the new shiny fusion card structure deck thing.
Yeah. Okay. So my number 4, I think keeping up with tradition of Pendulum's past, my 4th decision is to move Draco Face Off from 1 to 3. I think that this is, again, Shadow of Pendulum Past. It is once per turn, and it existed in a format with no Ash Blossom. So I think that this card coming back to 3 isn't a problem. And the resource generation is, sure, it's fine. Like, you can use it to set a scale or summon a monster and put the other one in your extra deck. So you are essentially setting up your extra deck and putting presence on board. But in the past, that was more used for things like Azathoths, like Shockmasters, and they're just gone. There's no Ptolemaeus to put into Infinities early to create all your Nibiru negates. So I think that Draco Face-Off is a relic, and I think just needs to be spring cleaned off the list.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I think it's fun. It's one of those cards that has definitely sat on that like limited list for a very long time, and it doesn't have a lot of reason to be there anymore. So
It's
I
like
agree with that.
archetypal unexpected die with small upside.
Yeah.
It's fine. Yeah. Unexpected die is not a problem card. If we think that's not a problem card, this card is very similar in terms of application. It requires you to run less bad cards in your deck than unexpected die, unless you're playing World Chalice. Shout out to Dina. But I don't think it's like game breaking.
No.
Nowhere near. I mean, Pendulum has like 12 cards that could come off the list today. And it would be fine.
I think it'll be good. Like, don't get me wrong. I feel like triple Draco Face-Off would definitely
play
be
it.
playable. Yeah.
It's a quick play,
Totally.
right?
It's a quick play spell.
So you can chain it. It's kind of cool.
It puts things on the board and like it gives you resources, which I think is just what Pendulum's missing. Like I would just like for that to be more, like to exist more.
It also means you could maybe like do more before you play into Droll. Like there's more interesting lines you could take, I think, with this card at 3 that don't just rely on you searching a billion cards.
Yeah, I mean, and not to spoil the support, but this is a Pendulum monster for the new Link monster that's just been announced.
Hell
so
yeah, baby.
I would like to see things like Darkworm, Curtain Raiser, like just more of these like funky designs of like
We'd like to
go
see
forward.
Pendulum decks go beyond their current capabilities, we should say.
Yeah.
And I think Face Off to 3 would help that. All right, Joe, what's the final choice?
This one's a bit out there. It could almost be considered a snatch steal, but I'm going to go for it anyway. I want That Grass Looks Greener to come back to 2.
Did you say this last time as a snatch steal?
I think it might have been, but I said to 1.
I'm like
even.
90% sure you put grass to 2 last time as well.
Maybe. I feel like it. So the reasoning is the same sort of reasoning as Seeker's Light. It promotes like cool deck building, but like as a one-off, it's kind of stupid. Like in a 60 card deck, it's not a good choice. Like like one grass and a 60 card deck, like you're never going to draw it. It needs to be at least at 2 to like see some sort of play, I believe.
Prosperity says hello.
True, yeah. But I feel like grass at 2, like it would be all right. Like I feel there are decks that would abuse it. There are I know Infernoid can run like some 60 card huge thing. Eldritch, I think, to see
it.
Yeah,
I'd like to see it. I would like to see it.
I am just visualizing my opponent going prosperity. Cool, I'll duality. Grass, cool. Like I just foresee that happening way too much. Maybe that's just like my math brain not working out.
I think like
it's funny.
It wouldn't win tournaments still.
No.
Yeah, I feel like it will be fine.
One thing that Yu-Gi-Oh misses sometimes from other card games is that it doesn't like to let other kinds of decks exist. Like Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't have a viable mill deck. It doesn't have a viable burn deck. It doesn't have many viable gimmick decks. Most of the good decks in Yu-Gi-Oh are
combo or control.
They're like describable in like Magic the Gathering as combo mid-range or combo control. Even the control decks are combo decks, and I think Grass is kind of one of those cards that you would see. It's like a Magic the Gathering card. Like it literally reads like Altar of Dementia from Magic's like
memory lapse
Hogarth
like,
format.
Yeah, it's like memory lapse. Just like put every top 10 cards into grave. Like
I mean, this is just saying cards that none of our listeners will know the terms of. But
Tasha's Hideous Laughter.
Yeah, effectively, it is a card. This happens a lot in Magic the Gathering. There'll be a card printed, and then you can build an entire deck around that card as a win condition. And Yu-Gi-Oh is afraid of that. I mean, pure Mystic Mine. What a great, cool deck. I'm so glad we have variant deck building designs in Yu-Gi-Oh. But they're like, there should be a mill deck, and there should be a self-mill deck. I think that's a cool archetype. So,
and it's the same sort of thing as like Sekka's as well. Like it's a deck where you have to run all monsters. Like it just promotes like a few more different choices for deck building. And I guess I just want to see a little bit. I mean, I'm probably being greedy because like our current format is very, very like diverse, but I want to see diversity, but in like not just archetypes, but like in the way that decks are built.
Yeah, you're asking for diversity that isn't just 12 different flavors of the same end board.
Yeah, or 6 different variations of the same engine.
It's a diverse format that ends on DPE Scythe. Like, there is diversity, and then there's homogeny and win condition, and I think Yu-Gi-Oh has historically in the last 5 years had just a huge problem with win condition homogeneity, where even though every deck has a different game plan, we're doing the same stuff. During TOS format, every deck won with Boral Sword Dragon. During Adamancipator format, every deck won with Access Code or, stupid combo lines. I mean, Hulk, Auroradon, etc. Like every deck kind of just does the same thing. And Grass is very cool because you can't play a terminal velocity of combo cards because you're probably not going to see them in your 60 card Grass pile. You have to run a bunch of graveyard cards that kind of suck, like
the Paleos, the Infernoids, the Backjacks. There's far too much. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, interesting. I like that. It's a fascinating take, and I think diversity in deck building is something I feel like Konami are going for. So this is kind of like something cool. I'd almost like to see a retrain of this in something in the future. If not Grass, something like a Grass 2 or like a Grass 0.5. Like nothing as crazy as the original card, but I'd like to see a retrain. I feel like that's not a hard ask either.
No.
Lucas, last choice.
So, we talked about how Invoked is boring. We can all agree. Normal Summon Alistair is broke. We aren't doing that anymore. However, there is a potential that Invoked, with the hits that I've put forward, could be a pretty swag deck. And that is because I think, legitimately, not a snatch deal, I think they should put Ancient Fairy Dragon back to 1. And I don't think that's a massive problem for this format. What do you guys...
Keep going. No, keep going.
Yeah. So, Ancient Fairy Dragon allows you to destroy a face-up field spell card to activate another one, or add one, I think, from deck to hand. And then, during your turn, you can special summon a level 4 or lower monster from your hand, and then you don't get a battle phase. So, first reasoning point, this is a level 7 synchro. no Destrudo. You can't just jam this in any deck. Your deck needs to be capable of making a level 7 synchro. That means Invoked is not just going to make this randomly. If this was involved in some kind of Synchro Auroradon combo, you've already won the game. You resolved Auroradon. Congratulations. You've won. So I think this would just see play in like a swag Synchro field spell deck. I think this would see play in a really cool UA deck with all their new support. And I think this deck could kind of bring about, again, another archetype that existed in the past. One of these fringe decks that did exist as a kind of unique pile, the field spell good stuff deck, I think was really cool. Not the FTK. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the deck that was just running Meltdown and things like Dragonic Diagram and just like value field spells and generating a dynamic game plan from that. I don't think the special summon effect is like that broken either. Again, if you're making a level 7 synchro uninterrupted, your opponent is letting you just get away with murder in this format.
I think the absence of Destrudo makes this a lot more likely.
Yeah, Destrudo can't come back. Destrudo's cracked.
Yeah, there's not too many 7 decks at this moment in time. I could only see it being more likely with the introduction of the Punk archetype, as a lot of them are 3s.
But they make 8s and 11s. They're not good at making 7s.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm interested. Yeah,
the play pattern
again,
got this,
like this is Ancient Fairy Dragon existed in a time that was pre-Nibiru.
Yep.
There was a lot less pieces of interruption in the format as there are now. Again, I keep reiterating the fact there's a lot of really good go second board breaking cards, and Ancient Fairy Dragon is not immune to any of them.
It doesn't do anything during your opponent's turn.
And that's the thing, is it's more of your own turn kind of actions. I could see this happening. Whether or not it be this list, I don't know. However, it is kind of a card that I no longer believe is
it doesn't
as
deserve
much
a ban.
of a problem.
If you're making this card work, your deck is cool, and I want to talk to you.
And you're right, like Auroradon combos, realistically,
you've already won.
You are already winning. If you've resolved Auroradon and put a Despot back on the board without interruption, you should be winning that game.
The play pattern that made this card unfair was activate Dragon Ravine, discard a card, send Destrudo, summon anything, Destrudo into Ancient Fairy Dragon, pop the Ravine, search any field spell. That was silly. And I don't think that should be allowed because that's just so generic. Dragon Link would say hello. Destrudo, pretty good in that deck, as are field spells, Blackgarden. So, I don't know. This card's cool as hell. I think there's a flex spot on the ban list for pretty much every synchro monster that's ever been banned, and this is just one of them. I think they could all come back in different capacities. Denglong, Ib, all swag. Love them. Bring them all back. Those decks were cool.
I don't really see many reasons for Ancient Fairy Dragon. If anyone listening sort of can bring up a good reason for it not coming back, I suppose that'd be the thing. I don't really see anything myself though.
Not at this moment in time. Not until they introduce stuff like a level 7 synchro based strategy, and that's just not happening at this moment.
Again, it would have to be a field spell. I just think it's so niche. This card was banned for Spiral, and Spiral is bad now. So
yeah.
If anything, it'll just make Spiral players max copium and try to build like a synchro engine, and I think that would be funny.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, so my final choice, as we know, Japan is receiving a lot of really unique support in the secret shiny box, and things like Mayakashi, Witchcrafter, and Skystriker are receiving some really incredible pieces of support. And I personally believe this is kind of a cheat. I believe I would put, as my final choice, I would put Engage to 2 with the caveat of putting Kagari to 1.
Ooh, okay.
I believe it's a trade. I understand that Engage is one of the most powerful spells they've ever printed. We are yet to see the final card that has been announced for the deck, Skystrike Immobilizer Linkage. It is a quick play spell. And I believe the introduction of a secondary Engage is mitigated by the lack of Kagari to enable the recursion that once was. I also believe 2 Engage is not enough to put into decks as an engine, because you're then consuming your space for cards and text for the potential to draw an extra card. You look at decks like that are playing things like Desires and even Prosperity. This is completely a wash if you're wishing to gain advantage off the card. And I think for Striker to not become the incomprehensible monster that it once was, the limiting of Kagari mitigates the consistent resource generation and looping that the deck once had.
I mean, does it add much to the deck that you just draw Engage more often? Because you can always use the Engage multiple times a game.
It just obviously now more than ever, Skystriker have one of the best OTK lines because of the introduction of Destroyer, Phoenix, Enforcer. But in the premise that Vertana Conduit to go, you lose that kind of a tool. You are then relying on finding something like a Fusion Destiny to get it. And sure, maybe Engage draws you into that, but I'm very certain you are just as likely to draw into your Fusion Destiny as you would be to your pieces of the Fusion materials, things like Celestial and Dasher. And I think it would, if something like Vertana Condor were to go, it still keeps Skystriker relevant and a threat that people have to understand and expect to be present.
I think it depends big time on what the new card says.
That's, fair. But
we're guessing game. Yeah,
we have to base it on what we know already.
Well, I guess with that one, I guess with the fact it has Link in its name, it's going to be something to do with the Link monsters themselves rather than the main deck stuff. So, I don't know. They might want to keep Kagari because it could cycle through Link monsters. This is all fully guesswork for me, But I don't know. Engage to 2 is scary. I know that a lot of people were freaking out when it came to 1. It probably, it definitely would have to go to 2 if Kagari went to 1. That's the only way it can happen. If it can't come to 2 while Kagari is where it is.
Yeah, and for reference, in Japan, they have a singular Kagari, 2 Engage, and 2 Widow Anchor. So they are already on a back foot in terms of accessibility that they have cards available to them. And I think that this is potentially a sign that Japan wanting to put Skystriker forward. And I very much understand that if there was to be a secondary card to increase consistency, something like Engage, you would have to mitigate that by removing the ability to consistently recur it every single turn.
Yeah. I mean, I think Konami of Japan, I think they personally consider Skystriker one of their greatest decks from a design perspective.
Absolutely.
And I don't think there's a lot of problems with Skystriker as a deck in terms of a design. I think it's almost perfect. It's self-contained. You can barely play anything else in it. Its restrictions are legitimate and restrict you from doing basically anything except your internal game plan. So I think this is a fine... It's fine to bring back to 2. I do think the only bad piece of design about this deck is it engages not once per turn. And I don't like archetypal rotors that don't punish you for drawing 2. I think they're always a little toxic. And in the case of Skystriker, the fact that there are never dead engages because there is always something of value to pick up. Drawing 2 Engage shouldn't be good. In the same way, I consider that drawing 2 Emergency Call and Hero is not good. You don't really have 2 targets. I don't think that drawing 2 Tanky is good. You can't activate it twice.
Yeah.
Engage is the only one that if you draw 2, that is the optimal hand. And I think that is just a little too strong for multiples because you don't want your opponent to draw multiples of what should be in any other deck a restrictive searcher and be like, oh, I essentially win the game because I drew 2 of this. So I don't disagree that the deck needs help and I would like to see it get away from being just DPE plus good stuff, especially if Verte were to go. And Engage coming back will happen because eventually it'll get power crept. I just don't know if that's happened yet. I still think opening Engage into Engage is better than what any other deck this format can do. I think that's just too good.
Yeah, it's super powerful. Okay, so that is our painful choices.
Yeah.
So do we just want to quickly recap what our selections were, and then we'll make some decisions based on the choices. So Joe, do you want to just quickly list off your 5 adjustments that you would make?
Yep. So I had Salaman Great Circle to 2. I had Imperial Order banned, Sekker's Light to 3, Nadir Servant to 1, and Grass to 2.
All right, and
The
Lucas,
spice list.
out of Joe's list, what would you think is the most likely to?
Sekker's Light overnight could be at 3. Not a problem.
For me, I would put Salaman Great Circle to 2. I think that's such a cool hit.
Also
and I think,
viable.
That's a really interesting one to go forward. Lucas, what were your 5 choices?
My 5 choices were a ban to Predaplant Verte Anaconda, a limit to Tri-Brigade Fractal, a ban to Harpy's Featherstorm, a limit to Magical Meltdown, and a limit to Ancient Fairy Dragon.
And Joe, what do you believe is probably the most likely? What's your choice?
I'm gonna go with the boring one and say Verte banned.
I'm probably I will go with something that's potentially a bit more unique, and I would put the Meltdown to 1. That is a super interesting one for me. And just for recap here, my choices were Cherubini banned, a Protoss banned, Draco Face-Off to 3, Colossus to 1, and Engage to 2, with the caveat of putting Skystrike Ace Kagari to 1. Joe, what do you think's the most likely? Or what's your choice?
Again, the boring one, Protoss. I just feel like that's the card that needs to go. Yeah.
Yeah. And Lucas?
Engage to 2. I can see it.
Okay. So now we're going to move on to our Snatch Steal. So this is a segment where we each take cards that are either limited or banned and would put them to 1 for a format, for kind of a testing ground to see if it's still necessary of it being at the position that it is at this moment in time.
Are there many limited cards that putting it to 3 would be like as impactful as unbanning a card?
Yeah, like Foolish.
Sure.
There's definitely a lot of
Monster
cards.
Reborn.
Monster Reborn.
there's some
Card of
good ones.
Demise. Like there's a lot of...
I might change my answer to 3 Monster Reborn. That's oh man, could you imagine?
So obviously these are designed to be talking points, and we do want to have a little discussion around them. And these are maybe a controversial decision or something that you think is no longer warranted of being on the list, or should be tested almost like a trial period to ensure its efficacy, and if it's still worth having the position that it holds today. So Joe, what is your Snatch Steal?
Right, so I've probably gone too extreme here. But
Okay, here we go.
I've gone Lavable Chain to 1.
Ooh.
I just want to see some wacky combos.
That was mine too.
Oh no!
We actually are on the same wavelength.
And so what's the reasoning? I'd like to...
We can
I'd like
both
to-
talk about our reasoning, yeah.
Literally, I just want to see what people can do. I want to see the wacky combos with it. I want to see it being played again. It's one of my favorite cards, and I don't know. I don't know. Like maybe Foolish Burial in a card or stacking a card to the top of your deck. I don't know. Is it really, really bannable? I suppose it is because it sends anything or stacks anything. But I don't know. I just want to see it. That's my reasoning. I know it's really bad reasoning.
You want to hear my damn hot take? Beatrice is just a better Lavalval chain. And 2 meta decks right now can make Beatrice.
Yeah. I mean, not many rank 4 decks are kind of at the top right now, right?
Yeah. There are more rank 6 decks or rank 6 viable decks than rank 4 decks right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to just like ignore the Utopia stuff that's come out because that's rank 4 the deck.
I guess counterpoint, there's nothing that good to send from deck to grave in Utopia. You can send the rank up magic. That's kind of cool. And maybe there's like an FTK in that, but I think this card is not stronger than Beatrice. Like they are the same card.
Beatrice is stronger. It's quick effect.
Beatrice is a quick effect, and the only limitation in the past was, it's a 6. That's harder to make. In the last 2 years, Konami has abandoned the idea of levels. They just don't matter anymore. We have entire archetypes of level 6s that act like level 1s. You know, it doesn't matter. And with the introduction, I think, of Drytron easily making a Beatrice, I don't think Lavalval Chain breaks anything that deck can't already do. And Virtual World has been making Beatrice since inception. It's strong. I don't know. I think you're right. I think Lavalval Chain is not too crazy. Maybe we're just sounding like it's our 6th Banlist pick, but it is a little bit crazier than the other stuff we chose.
Like, even thinking about it, like, the Lavalval Chain was a problem back in the day because cards like Norden existed. and like Norden would give you a free Revival Chain. Like it was just like, it. I don't know, like it wasn't super bad, like in Necros it was crazy. In Satellite Knights it was
Jin, like
barely used. It wasn't that abusable. Like I feel like it's, I think about the decks right now. Like even like Sword Soul, realistically could make it, but why would you?
To do what?
Exactly.
They can
why
also
would
make
you?
Beatrice.
Yeah, like why would you make it? You just wouldn't.
You can play Vessel, which is a foolish burial for your entire typing.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
the most you'll be doing is like, I don't know, introducing mare combos into the deck more consistently, but that's not very good.
Talk about your level 7s. There's the Ancient Fairy Dragon.
True.
I feel like it's one of those.
Yeah.
I feel like it's one of those cards where, like Daigusto Emerald, everyone was like, "Oh man, I remember that coming off," and everyone was like, "Oh shit, get Daigusto. That's such a good card." Like, and then after about a week, everyone was like, "Hang on, this card's crap."
Yeah.
Like
Crickets.
So it could be the same. I mean, there might be some broken combo that we're just not thinking of right now, but I just don't see it.
If there is, let us know. Please comment.
Yeah,
let us know.
4-axis hasn't been a deck in a while, and we lost all the good 4-axis enablers like Lunalight Tiger, like a large majority of level 4 extenders have just dropped off because they've been power crept.
By level 3 extenders.
Yeah, like Shade Brigandine, cards like Instant Fusion, now Ready Fusion. They're just not the cards they used to be because we have so many more things to deal with boards before they've been built. And yeah, like, not to say you can imperm an Ash Revival Chain as like a caveat, but like you can just imperm an Ash that card. And they've committed 2 level 4s on their field that they had to spend resources to get because you can't use tokens. And what do they do after that? They probably just pass. Like, it can make Zeus. Haha. Hilarious.
It's a level 4 non-number monster for F0. Okay.
Yeah. I do think it is legitimately a Snatch Steal choice just because it is a...
The fire it
is
would
a
cause.
very free Foolish Burial of anything.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that's not strong, and I'm not going to say that Shade Brigandine, Ready Fusion don't exist. Maybe there are combos that just start with Revival Chain and then find a way to just essentially Azathoth the opponent. I don't know.
I would like to see it.
Yeah, I don't think it's that. I mean, ask yourself this: like, if you have 2 monsters on board, would you rather go into a Verte or would you rather go into a Revival Chain? Like,
Verte is just better Revival Chain. Hot take.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'd like to Foolish Burial a card that puts things on board as opposed to just sends a card from deck to grave.
All right, Ruben, you've got the only unique choice of us.
You don't have another choice?
3 Mally? I don't know. I'll think about it while you talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite. I have a lot I could probably talk about. I think there's a lot of funky ones that I could really snatch steal here. What I think I would like to see snatch stealed and put to 1. I'm going to have to go with Ding Long. And that's because I would like to see Worms have their second round of glory. I think Ding Long is so powerful. Funny, I believe I've put Ding Long to 1 in previous lists as not a Snatch Steal choice because I was just like, it's not really doing anything. Like, it's not that powerful. But I think now, Ding Long in the existence of a Sword Soul 10-year meta is super cool.
It's meta warping, I think.
Super funky. And Ding Long existence encourages things like Chi-Wen and more Yang Xing utility because there are no level 1 non-tuners that deck plays. You only are you're on Adhara, which at that point you're then sacrificing one of your level 4 Sword Soul monsters to make Ding Long, which I think, I don't have the folder on me, but I think it's a light. So realistically, but it's also a tuner, so you can't use it with the Sword Soul token that you've created to make a 9. Do I think 9 Pillars is powerful? Yes. Do I think Ding Long being able to send a worm from deck to grave is powerful? Yes. Do I think its ability to float into another Yang Xing that can then synchro summon into another monster is powerful? Yes. But I would like to see it. I would like to see Ding Long be put in because it's a build around. You have to include other Yang Xings for it to be as oppressive as it would be. And you have to play 9 Pillars. You have to put in your counter traps to deal with it. So yeah, I would put Ding Long to 1.
I think
I got one as well for after this.
cool. I think it would be kind of cool. Like I like it. I like the fact that you could like special the Adhara, summon your Moyi, like get a token, and then like make a ding dong, draw a card, do other things. It would be kind of cool. I quite like that. I don't
Yeah.
think it's like. I mean,
It's
there's
pretty good.
It's
says
very
foolish
good.
to worm on summon, right?
It's very good, but
Yes.
I mean, that's what Vessel does in a way. Like it's
You got to
when
draw
you have
Vessel.
yeah. I know you have to draw Vessel, right? You can make a ding dong.
It doesn't add a counter trap from deck to hand.
Yeah, that's the problem. I guess that's the main issue. Because like the Foolish itself, like yeah, you Foolish like a 10-year monster or like a Sword Soul monster in this instance. But like that doesn't do much unless you have the token up on the field. So I get. Oh, actually no, that does heaps because you could Foolish to your Shuna, banish it because you had the token on board, summon another 10-year, and then synchro with the 10-year and the Denlong. That's
Final
pretty
Sigma.
strong. That's strong.
Yeah.
Okay, that's huge.
But I'd like to see it. Like I would just like to
It's
see
spicy.
it. I feel like
Yeah.
that's an interesting take, and I feel like that's not.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a
that's
snatch
like
deal.
crazy. Yeah, ding long to 1. And Lucas?
Put Grinder Golem to 3.
No, you are wilding out here right
But why
now.
though?
Why?
We got no Firewall Dragon. What are we making?
Sayuja.
Cool.
I need to look at this card. I wasn't around. At
Grinder
the time.
Golem cannot come back.
But like, imagine if they just put it at 3. Like, just nonchalantly on the bottom of the ban list as everyone's going down it. They're just like, excuse me.
There's no way they could put Grinder because Grinder Golem is no longer a free firewall. It's a free Appaloosa.
It's like Appaloosa into Sayuja and access code. I love it.
Y'all wilding out.
But that's
with
the
that
snatch steal, baby, just for one format, and then we just take it away. Like, whoops.
Mama, that's not a whoops. That's a I dropped the beans. I dropped my
But is that
croissant.
not the spirit of the snatch steal? Just one.
I suppose
format
it
of
is,
Grind
yeah,
Golem. What is the best deck? Come on.
I think what you could.
literally anything?
You
because
can't normal
Grinder
summon.
Golem. Oh my god, adventurer tokens. Yeah.
Just pure adventure Grinder Golem.
Oh no.
Yeah, because you're ending on Appaloosa.
Appaloosa's just droplet it. Done. Board broken. Easiest game of my life. I mean, it was at its worst with Firewall. I don't think it would be as good as when we had Firewall. I think we can agree on that because
We still have Firewall.
Yeah. But the whole point was that you'd make Firewall, which then let you special monsters from your hand and bypass the normal summon restriction. Now you have to make a Sayuja, which is still really good, but it's only once. It's still like the best card of the format, and I think it would be funny. That's kind of the reasoning.
Yeah.
But it's not as good as when you could make double Firewall without normal summoning. Obviously, because that was silly.
It's also not once per turn.
No.
So if you open 2, that is even freer.
Yeah. Fight me. I think it would be funny.
No,
I think it would
you're
be fun.
wilding for that one.
One
Val.
format,
That's
format,
not
baby.
on. That's
It's the Snatch Deal.
Mama,
You want Snatch Deal to come back?
That's
Yeah,
too
okay.
much.
Okay, sweet. We got Snatch Deal too.
That's wild.
Snatch Deal your opponent's Grinder Golem.
Y'all,
Oh, yeah.
I'm getting heated. I'm getting heated
All
in
right.
this room. That is okay.
So that's
It's gone too late.
we've got our
choices.
yeah. So we've got our snatch deals. So for recap, Joe would put
The Bubble Chain to
Lavalval
1.
Chain to 1. I would put the Ding Long to 1, and Lucas would put Grinder Golem to 3. So last episode, we asked you guys to write in, leave a comment, or send us an email of your opinions of Painful Choice and its snatch steals. We're not going to go into too much depth. We're going to do a bit more of like a flash review and see what and have a quick little first impressions on
We
these
got
kinds of
9.
lists. We have
And-
9 lists.
I'm going to read them off. You guys can just, I want just like quick reactions and I'll move on, okay? Because
Yeah.
otherwise we're going to go on too long. So
We will.
first of all, Dino, ban Celestial, ban Artifact Scythe, ban Forbidden Droplet, 3 Servant of Endymion, 1 Electromite, and the Snatch Deal is Gumblar can come back. That's a great card to pair with Grinder Golem.
So that means it can't come back if you want Grinder Golem to come too. Like all
Why
these
not?
takes, I think Forbidden Droplets is just still a touch too new.
Yep.
And Celestial, I think, is probably on the chopping block because the card says draw 2. Joe?
Dino, you're bad.
I think that is very much a pendulum players list.
Yeah, and you better get into it.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right.
Celestial is dumb. Why would you ban that? Henry, Dagda, Io, Protoss and Droplet to 0, Revolt to 1. Painful choice, max C to 1, save the bees.
No, you can't free the C. I'm so sorry, Henry.
Just 1 for bees.
Everything banned, I can agree with. Same sentiment for Droplet. I think it's too new and they want to sell some money.
2 people banning Droplet.
Yeah,
Rip,
and
rip
Revolt
guys.
to 1, I can see if they want to kill the pure Tri-Brigade variant. Joe?
Rip Ruben and Joe.
I think that Droplet is it's a very good card. It's not bannable.
Droplet's fine.
Yeah.
It's like banning Forbidden Chalice back when that was good. Why would you do that?
You need the answer to the boards, and Droplet gives you the answer.
Yeah.
So,
You know,
but yeah, the rest of it,
come on.
rest of it's fine. Max C, no.
No. I need to buy ultis before it comes back.
Right. We got Jason. Right, some hot list coming in. Ultimate Baseball Kid, banned. Yet to meet a person who thinks this card is healthy or a person who has an opinion on this card. That's true. Cosmic
Correct.
Fortress Golgar, banned.
FTK.
Dulor and Errata, but they forgot about this. Good point. Heatwave banned. Against certain decks, it makes them so they can't play and they lose the next turn. Very true.
Hot take. I like that's a heat wave.
That's very true. 3 for 3 so far. Firecracker. Unfair that you can win turn 0 in time. I got to agree.
You just been cancelled off Twitter for saying the C word.
Thank God we don't stream on Twitch. And then Blue-Blooded Oni. How is nobody abusing this? You read Blue-Blooded Oni?
Yeah, it's a really strong vampire
It
card.
sucks. And then Bring Back Dimension Fusion. I heard people don't like Verte Anaconda. This will get Konami's attention.
You know what?
That's
Fusion
true.
normal spell. Perfect.
Best based list. Best one so far.
Yeah, I agree with all these takes. Golgar's broken. And shout out to Dimension Fusion. Got to be one of my favorite genders. Joe?
Ultimate Baseball Kid definitely needs to go.
They
Yeah,
could ban all these
problematic
cards and
Kairos.
no one would notice. All right, Keza. We've got Harp Horror to 1, Engage to 2. Tri-Brigade Nerval to 1. Don't know why he hates that guy in particular. Mystic Mind to 1, Imperial Order banned, and the Snatch Deal is Astrograph.
Love this. Great list. Huge fan of all these hits. The Snatch Deal's super interesting. I don't know if it's the problematic Pendulum Past I would be bringing back. And I'm a huge fan of the Mystic Mind to 1. I think it's a really strong card, but I think 1 is enough. Joe?
Yep, I am agreeing with that. I think that Mystic Mind to 1 makes it not so much a problem. You know, you deal with it, it's gone, move it on. You know that.
Yep. Just play Cosmic.
Just play Cosmic.
Liam Garrity says Imperial Order Skill Drain, Red Reboot, Dimensional Fissure, and Macrocosmos to 0. And 1 Link Cross.
Oh my god.
Respect.
Y'all wilding out with this one.
But not to combo, just to link off for Hextia turn 1. Man of Culture. He wants to play Altergeist, don't want to play Floodgates. Respect.
Yeah,
Love
what
it.
did Marshall get banned from that Altergeist group? We can talk about it later. I mean, this is funky, fun, and fresh. I mean, sure, like, the banishing floodgates are super powerful. A red reboot is very problematic as a one-off now.
Yeah.
Skill drain, Saki, Io Saki. Joe?
I feel like IO, yeah. Skill Drain is like one of those cards that it's like, I don't know, could even come back to free. But, well,
It's
anyway,
an archetype build round. I like it. The
yeah,
Skill Drain Beats is like a deck.
I feel like the other one as well, Red Reboot, probably needs to go. I don't like it as a one-off.
Yeah. Also, if you get rid of all these floodgates, then Red Reboot going is less sad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Also, Link Cross, you're wilding for that one.
I love
Next
Link
one.
Cross. Phil Brooks, Mystic Mind 0, Nadir 1, Anaconda 0, Dragoon 0, Io 0.
They ain't hitting Dragoon. They printed a Starlight and need to make a Monet. Everything else I could see, probably no Zero Mine. I think Konami liked the card too much. Joe?
This guy just lost to Dragoon plus Io. I'm just saying that.
Yeah, he does. I can confirm he literally put Dragoon on there because he loses at hobby a few times to it, and it's
easiest
line 'em
call
up.
of my life.
Yeah, so like the rest of it though, I very much agree. IO, Verte, we both had that. So
Yeah.
Right, Alistair Parks, Mystic Mind 1, ban Red Eyes Fusion, Masterpiece to 1, don't know why that's in the middle, Imperial Order ban, Star
gonna
Pendulum
rewrite
Graph
that one.
ban, Personal Vendetta versus Star Pendulum Graph, but the man saying Masterpiece is fine. When did you play Yu-Gi-Oh? And then Thunder Dragon Colossus as the painful choice. Again, switch that with Masterpiece. Don't just drop that in the middle like that's cash.
You're going to read right over that one. That's all wild.
did speak to him about that. I was like, "Do you realize how good Masterpiece is?" And he was like,
You realize
"Not
you put
really."
Dragoon to banned and brought back Masterpiece like that's a fair.
The funny thing
Masterpiece
is
a quick effect, right?
Yeah, he loves Dragoon as well, so I'm not sure why he wanted to ban it. But anyway, the Star
actually,
Pendulum
what's
graph,
some of those
that's
IFT
Yeah, he wants to summon it legitimately, of course.
Yeah, magical
that's funny
fusion.
though. The Star
That's
Pendulum
funny.
graph is because he doesn't. He always loses
He's
to
never
it
read it.
against Pendulum. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, work. Next
Renton
one.
Cooper, banned, Verte, Mana Culture, Limited, Zeus, Alistair the Invoker. Again, Royal Oppression, just in the middle of the list. I cannot deal with this. Unlimited skill drain. Hard to think of a havoc struck between Yada at 3 and Dandy at 3. Dandy to 3. And
Dandy to make plants
Perfect.
great again.
Y'all say I'm wilding
MPGA.
for y'all say I'm wilding for Grinder Golem. You read Dandelion?
Yeah,
Not once per turn.
Centigrade. You want your Lavarval Chainbag one? I have a Dandy at the same time.
Okay, now you've convinced me. This
Royal
is sick.
Oppression, Mama.
You can't
Not
just
the floodgates card. You can't just put these broken cards in the middle.
Also-
it don't matter.
Can you
so
imagine
Vandy's
Flow
Evidence without a downside. Awesome. Love
and
to
like
see it.
Flow Under with that card? No, thank you.
They already play Vanities, and Vanities has like a realistic downside that
Yeah.
if any card leaves your field, it means you can't use spell
No.
cards for the rest of the turn.
Field to grave.
I know,
Field to grave.
but you can't use spell cards for the rest of the turn. You can't use, or the rest of the game, if you want to hold up Vanities. You can't flip up a trap card. Like the Fluanda trap will get rid of Vanities. So Royal Oppression being Vanities with upside, the life point cost doesn't matter. You can't Royal Oppression Gauze. Oh
Ooh,
no.
Spooky.
Damn, these people really do be dropping the hot shit in the middle.
In the middle.
I'm
yeah.
living. Everything else
fan.
I can see, though.
Ricky Campbell, our North Island Championship winner.
No,
Bans
he
are
lost.
no,
Yeah, he
the
won North Island.
Oh,
Champ
North
he
Island
won.
Championship. Sorry. not Battle of the
Respect
Island.
to the
Wow.
man. He lost the Battle of the Islands. No, he lost that. I beat him at North Island Champs. I was the champ. Just kidding. We love you, Ricky. Painful choice. Ban Artifact Scythe. Ban Verte Anaconda. Clean. Ban Tenyi Spirit Ashuna.
Okay.
3 Skullcrobat Joker. 1 Forbidden Droplet, and then Snatch Steal Astrograph.
Another
Again,
Astrograph.
Another man of Pendulum
kind of feeling
Culture.
this one. Arshin is super interesting. Again, like
think
Tenyi, good cards.
I
Does
don't know.
every
I feel-
Yu-Gi-Oh player secretly want to be Triff? Like, why does everyone just love Pendulum?
Yo, I want to see those mother balls on these people because everyone wants to be Triff with Astrograph, but y'all can't play Pendulum. What's good? What's
think-
good?
It's crazy how many people are going for droplets. Leave them alone. I just got my third one.
That's true.
You know
Every
what?
single person's like,
You better
Joe,
get into it.
you in particular get owned.
Yeah, you know what? I'm living. All right.
And then final
one.
is Ryan Vowell, Banned Anaconda, Banned Imperial Order. People really hate these cards, and I get it. 1 Mystic Mine, 1 to 2 Droplets. Again, Joe, just get
Leave
wrecked.
me alone. Just leave me
3
alone.
Joker and 1 Electromite. Another Pendulum player.
He is a
People
pendulum
just
player.
want to see
confirmed.
it.
He is
People
actually
just
the
wanna
pendulum
see
player.
You
But
know
like
what?
the
You better get into it.
The non-pendulum players are putting this stuff back. We all want to lose to Triff. That's
I
just
think
what it is.
The
It's
thing
like a
I worry about
domination pink or something.
is as soon as pendulum goes over, it is the mechanic that is most abusable. Like
It's
if
the hardest to
It
explain to new
sucks,
players.
man. Like full power pendulum is like the most annoying deck ever printed.
it's
and again,
very
it'll never be
annoying.
that way.
Yeah,
It'll never be that way again because we have new rules about how pendulum summoning works. So
I believe so. Yeah, but even then, like, just
I think what's
People-
really getting
people
people
forget-
on pendulum's side is that you can't just pen 5 every turn, and it's more of a honestly like a nostalgic MR4 deck now. You have
Yeah.
to still use link monsters, which is kind of nostalgic.
Mm.
I think people forget though. They're like people really do forget those oppressive pendulum formats. And
Yeah.
like if we get one of those again, soon people will be like going kill it, get rid of it. We don't want it
yeah,
again.
for sure. The minute this
Yeah.
starts
Troll it with
topping,
fire.
this stuff's everyone's gonna be so upset.
Yeah, droll
Yeah.
it with fire, as I would say. I mean, we went through that super quickly, but Joe, one card off all these painful choices that you
Oh.
think's going the most likely.
There's no way we're
Just one.
getting through all of these.
Leave droplet alone.
Okay.
Verte.
Anything
Verte.
droplet. Verte.
Verte, it's
Lucas,
IO.
Scythe.
Yeah.
Those are the problem cards. If you were going to pick like 3 problem cards, and none of us hit it, but
No, and best Snatch Steal out of all these ones. Should have been Royal Oppression.
unironically, Dimension Fusion.
Yeah, I think the most realistic one would probably be the astrograph, and we saw that over a few people's lists. So I'll go with that.
Shout out Astrograph.
Gumblar's
be.
okay too.
Nope. Okay. But we'd like to say thank you to everyone that submitted. What a great response that we've had. And as always, we always want to hear from you guys. Let us know what your thoughts are for this upcoming format. Let us know your painful choices and your snatch steals still. And for the next one of this format, we'll definitely be reading some more, hopefully with a bit more analysis. It is, however, 11:20 p.m. at night, and I would love to go to bed.
We got to go fight about
however,
Golem.
yeah, dedicated to the craft. And as always, if you want us to read some things or send us your questions, comments, queries, and concerns, please leave a comment below. Please comment on our Facebook post that we'd make weekly, or please send us an email, which is thefacedowns@gmail.com. We will always try to read these as much as possible. We, in fact, have some super sweet messages that we'll hopefully go over. This is our final podcast of the year. We will be taking, I believe, a 2-week break, maybe 3. I don't know how people's schedules are.
Unless
but we will be returning.
there may be one emergency Banlist one.
If there's a list tonight, I'm quitting.
sad.
I am officially quitting the
human
podcast.
babes.
You can replace me with Dino. It's fine.
Yeah. So this will be our
Not
last
actually
episode.
true. This is my show. You're not take it away from me.
Will be our last episode for the year. So we just want to say thank you so much to everyone that's listened. We've had some amazing growth over this year. And that's all thanks to you guys who've listened. Shout out to Joe for kicking us up the ass and doing this again. Because I think this has been so much fun to do. And
I'd like to personally thank everyone that has come up to me in person and told me they listened to the podcast. It's super meaningful. Seeing, like, putting a face to the comments, or even people that haven't spoken up, and just hearing that people are liking what we're doing is huge, because we put a lot of work into this and don't get like money from it. So your praise is keeping me afloat.
I'm in fact losing money each ban list. So you know what? That's the gig.
I'm out here making my grinder golems going through the roof, baby.
But where are those grinder golem tokens though? That's what I want to know.
I don't know.
Anyway,
I'm tired.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for submitting your questions.
Like and subscribe.
Please leave a comment. It always helps. Like and subscribe. Share this with anyone that you think would also enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh content. And be sure to give us a follow on your preferred podcasting app.
Yeah.
Joe?
I would also like to say just thank you to everyone for listening for the year. It's been great. I've enjoyed doing the podcast with you two as well. It's been a good year, and I look forward to the next ones. And everyone have a good Christmas and a New Year.
Yep. Happy holidays to everyone. And thank you so much for listening. As always, I'm Ruben.
I'm Lucas.
And I'm Joe.
And you've been listening to
The Face Downs. I was a bit off time. Damn.
I was really holding that note. Christina.
I had to do a long one for the end of the year.